Hey, what's up, guys? Yes, it is Sunday, the 20th of October. Yes, we're 11 days away from Halloween, but that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here to talk about, and obviously you may or may not have heard about this, I'm surprised Tails channel hasn't talked about this, but I will. Now, first of all, you're probably wondering, what's up with the setting, just in case you've been following my videos a lot. Well, long story short, I'll get into it. My tripod finally broke on top, and pretty much that means I have to rearrange some things. So the mic that I would usually have with this is basically right now, right here as we speak, saved up until I get another tripod. So anyway, with that said, long story short, out of the way, let's get into what this video is about. And what this video is about is the news that broke in the past 24 hours, at least the news that was reported in the past, actually I would say past 5 hours, past 5 to 6 hours actually. And it has to do with IDW's Sonic comic, as well as it has to do with Ian Flynn, of course, who's part of that, but it also has to do with the Freedom Fighters. Yes, we're talking Sally, we're talking Bunnie, we're talking Rotor, we're talking Antoine, we're talking Dulcy, and Nicole, and many others. Lupe the Wolf Pack, you name it. Well, there has been information that was dropped by Ian Flynn. Now, Ian Flynn apparently came out and finally corrected something. Now, I know some people will be watching this video and being like, oh, he's just saying that to save his butt, because that's actually what he said, but now he's trying to retract it. And that's up to one's opinion. But, with that said though, Ed, if you will, let's take a look at what Ian Flynn had to say here. Now this apparently, and you can see it right there, this is the article, printed out by Sonic Stadium. Sonic Stadium actually reported this. This was reported by Knuckles87. That's who reported. It was Knuckles87. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. It's reported by Knuckles87. And this is what he reported. This is the title right here. The title says, Ian Flynn pushing to bring the Freedom Fighters to IDW Sonic. Okay. So, anyway, that sounds like sounds like some positive news, right? Because if there's one thing a lot of fans have been wanting, they've been wanting the Freedom Fighters. Everybody looks at freaking Tangle, I think that's her name, that lemur, and as great as a character as she is, and I haven't read the comic that much, and I know people would say you have to read it, it's pretty good. I'm not saying it's not, but when people look at the Tangle character, they look at a hybrid character. They look at a character that has Sally's design, but has the hybrid excitement of, let's say, a Styx the Badger, or it's kind of a combo of Styx, Sally, and maybe a bit of Amy. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, long story short, this is what the article said, and I quote. This is from about 6 to 5 hours ago. This is what the article says, and I quote. Ever since the council... Okay, let me restart that. Let me get some coffee here. Okay. Continuing. And I quote Knuckles87's report on Sonic Stadium, and I quote, ever since the cancellation of Archie's Sonic book and the franchise's move to IDW, one aspect of the old comic has remained in limbo. The status and future of Archie's Sonic's supporting characters, the Freedom Fighters, until now. Again, let me reread that. And I quote, ever since the cancellation of Archie's Sonic book and the franchise's move to IDW, one aspect of the old comics has remained in limbo. The status and future of Archie's Sonic supporting characters, the Freedom Fighters, until now. Continuing on. The cast, which included and I guess this was a misspell, or they didn't finish the wording, or they didn't spell it out right, which included Princess Sally, Rotor, Antoine, Bunnie, and Nicole, started out in Dick's old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. D-I-C, that is. Dick's old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. But would subsequently live on, and I quote there, but would subsequently live on for decades, substantially I should say, substantially would live on, but would substantially live on for decades within the pages of Archie Sonic. That all came to an end when the comic was canceled, and Archie Sonic fans have been demanding their return ever since. Now, again, let me reread that, because I know people want me to kind of read it off correctly. And I quote, and I quote, "This cast, which included Princess Sally, Rotor, Antoine, Bunnie, and Nicole, started out in Dick's old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, but would substantially live on for decades within the pages of Archie Sonic. That all came to an end when the comic was canceled, and Archie Sonic fans have been demanding their return ever since," which is a true fact. Myself included have been wondering, okay, when are we going to see these characters? How are they going to be integrated? What's the roles going to be like? Is it going to be similar to what they were in the past? What's the deal? Now here's the rest of it, and I quote, "Well, Freedom Fighter fans got some good and unsurprising news today. IDW, okay, let me reread that. And I quote, "Well, Freedom Fighter fans got some good and unsurprising news today. IDW Sonic's head writer Ian Flynn feels the same way. After an old and out-of-context quote of his popped up on Twitter yesterday, which implied he dismissed the characters as outdated and niched, Flynn decided to address the future of the Freedom Fighters." Continuing on. "The answer is IDW is aware of the demand, and Flynn is considering where and when to possibly bring them back." Again, I quote, "The answer is IDW is aware of the demand, and Flynn is considering where and when to possibly bring them back. But whether they can ever return is out of his hands." Flynn went on to say that if the characters ever do return, they will be, quote, "updated to be more relevant within the comic. What he calls a, quote, middle ground between the characters' SatAm looks, or SatAm roots, and modern Sonic. He confirmed that these new designs would need to be different from the character redesigns from the Archie Sonic, quote-unquote, Genesis Waves reboot, as those designs are 100% off limits." So yeah, the design of Sally, her post-Mecha Sally design, you know, Bunnie's new look, Rotor's beefed up look, you know, Antoine, you know, now just wearing like some kind of, I don't know what it was, belt across his chest or something. You know, Dulcy being now anthropomorphic in a way, Lupe being a bit younger. Those designs, according to what Ian Flynn has reported or responded to, are off limits. So they would have to be, according to this, and I quote, "a middle ground between the character's SatAm roots and modern Sonic." So in other words, the designs would have to be different, and the background would have to be a blending in the origin and background of the characters. Would have to be a excuse me. Need some coffee there. And I know some people might laugh about that, so I do apologize. But like I said, basically what it sounds like is the character designs would have to be like a blending of modern Sonic designs and the SatAm designs, and also I guess like their background or origins would have to be a blending of both as well. So let me reread that part, and I quote, "The answer is IDW is aware of the demand and Flynn is considering where and when to possibly bring them back, but whether they can ever return is out of his hands." Flynn went on to say that if the characters ever do return, they will be, quote, updated to be more relevant within the comic. What he calls a, quote, middle ground between the characters' SatAm roots and modern Sonic. He confirmed that these new designs would need to be different from the characters' redesigns from the Archie Sonic, quote, Genesis Wave reboot, as those designs are 100% off limits. So yeah, you know, Flynn wants to bring him back, but basically what Flynn, and I'm going to read his tweet here in a minute, that was pasted onto the report. Ian Flynn is basically saying, you know, look, I want him back just as much as you do. IDW is aware of it, but guess what? It's not my call. It's the higher-ups' call. So, yeah. There's not really, it's like Ian can do so, basically what Ian Flynn is going to be saying here is he could only do so much, but that's about it. Now, continuing on, and I quote, this is from Ian Flynn. This is from Ian Flynn, and again, you could kind of read some of that right there. But this is from Ian Flynn. This is from Ian Flynn's Twitter. Somebody put up. And thankfully they did, because apparently I can't read it because Ian Flynn blocked me on Twitter. But this is what Ian Flynn said, and I quote from his Twitter, as reported by Knuckles 87. Yeah, by Knuckles 87, and I quote. This is from Ian Flynn's own Twitter, and I quote. A 7-year-old quote of mine is being trotted out in the most unflattering way possible. Almost vilifying. So I'll comment on it briefly and indirectly. And this is what he said. If/when the FF, Freedom Fighters, return, they will almost assuredly be updated to fit into modern Sonic's style/world/themes. Okay, it's in 3 parts here, so here's the 3rd part. IDW, and this is from Ian Flynn, again, this is from Ian Flynn, just so you guys know. But this is what he says. Continuing, he says, this is what Ian Flynn says. He says, IDW is aware there's a demand for them. I definitely know folks want them back. I'm pushing where and when I can, as things are well beyond my control development. And if/when they come back, I hope I get to be part of the return to find that middle ground of SatAm and modern Sonic. Now, he emphasizes the 3rd part. He starts the 3rd part of his response on Twitter like it was capitals, in capital wording, as you could see right there. And this is what he says. He says, again, IDW Sonic is, and he puts this in caps, very young. They weren't in Season 1, won't be in Season 2, but beyond that, who knows? I haven't given up on them, so we'll just have to wait and see. So, yeah. And again, you can kind of read that right there as I talk about it. So yeah, basically what Ian Flynn is saying is, just like us fans, he wants the Freedom Fighters to come back, but unfortunately right now it's beyond his control. Whether or not that means IDW, who, as he put it, is aware of their demand to bring the characters back, is the final say, or it's Sega of America, or Sega of Japan, or Sega overall. Because apparently there's also somebody in Sega of America that used to work for Sega of Japan that's a fan of the characters. So I don't know if it's his call or what. And again, this is just a report that was put together by Knuckles87 that I'm showing you here. So you guys can read it in case you couldn't really understand what I was saying, and I do apologize. So again, just let you finish up that. So yeah, basically, Ian Flynn apparently wants them to come back. He's aware of. He's saying that IDW is aware, but right now it's beyond his control development. Now, what's interesting, and again, I'll let you finish that there. Sorry about that. Now, what's interesting about that is he's talking about the fact that the IDW design, that not the IDW, but the Genesis Wave, the post-Genesis Wave reboots designs are off limits, are 100% off limits. So in other words, like I said, the post-Mecha Sally design for Sally, the post-Genesis Wave design for Bunnie, for Rotor, for Antoine, Dulcy, Lupe, and the Wolf Pack and such, are all off limits. And one has to wonder, why is that, since basically he was part of the comic? How is it off limits? And my thought process, guys, is because the reboot was done in response to the lawsuit that Ken Penders was putting on Archie Comics, along with some other writers, it's basically what it sounds like is those designs were put together by, well, basically I think Ian Flynn had a say in the designs, but he didn't like 100% confirm them, and then whatever artist came up with them is the one that owns the rights. Now, whether or not that's true, and Ian Flynn's just saying that to kind of cover something up, I don't know. And I know, again, like I said, people are going to have their judgmental eyes, you know, their judgmental eyes and thinking caps on about what Ian just said here on Twitter and what this report has put out. You know, some people will have the, you know, something's fishy, something doesn't add up kind of thought process going through their minds. Because everybody will point out that they've had this entire time to bring the Freedom Fighters in. To bring them in, make them part of the IDW comic. I mean, again, people would point out, and I pointed this out just moments ago as well as before. Tangle is a hybrid character. She has the design that's very similar to Sally's, but her personality is in between of, let's say, a Styx, an Amy, and a Sally. You know, some would look at Whisper and say, well, Whisper's kind of original, right? True, she is, and she's a wolf. But Whisper is like the power. You know, she's got that power now, that abilities. And the fact that she's being paired up with Tangle in a spin-off miniseries, people would point out, and just by the fact that she has a design very similar in some places, people would say she's basically IDW's answer to Bunnie Rabbot. I could be wrong, but people would have to look at it that way, especially since she's got a not a cyborg arm, but something weaponized on the side. Now, people would also point out that Amy, in this version, has Sally's personality with a bit of a blend of her own. So it's like a 50-50 hybrid personality for Amy, like she's part Sally, part herself. And people would point that out too. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people would look at some of these little quirks, if you will, design or personality-wise with the characters, and they would say, well, if they're making them be like or look like and sometimes act like the Freedom Fighter characters of Sally and Bunnie and Rotor and Dulcy and da-da-da-da, why not bring in those characters, right? And I think that's what Ian Flynn wants to address. You know what? And again, what I'm saying, that's what I think Ian Flynn wanted to address here. He himself wants them in there. He himself wants them to be part of the part of the story. He wants them in there. But he points out that they weren't in season 1, they weren't in season 2. Now, I don't know why he's referring to comic books now as seasons. That's an entirely different story. I'm guessing, this is what I'm guessing. the first 4 issues that came out in that first April the comic debuted, that's looked at as the first season, and then afterwards we're currently finishing up the second season. But he's saying that he doesn't know about the future, about the 3rd season. But I'll tell you this, the moment he brings the Freedom Fighters in, the moment he brings those characters in, that comic is going to go from being a decent seller as it is to taking off to being a bestseller. Because you're going to have the characters that people associate with Sonic, associate with Tails, associate with Amy Rose, associate with Rouge, associate with Shadow, Knuckles, you name it. You're going to have those characters in there. And whether or not they have personalities that are a hybrid of what they were in the past and what they are now and what they could be now is totally up in the air. But I guarantee you, the moment the issue comes out, whenever that is, the issue comes out that we see a silhouette of characters that are very identical in design of the characters of the Freedom Fighters, people are going to pop. They're going to lose it. Longtime fans are going to lose it because they want to see these characters. They want to see them come back. But Ian Flynn is saying, look, it's beyond my control. There's not really much I could do. So he says, and again, that's where a lot of people's, suspicious eyes are going to be on Ian. The laser-focused eyes are going to be on Ian. Like, yeah, you say that now, but you're not telling the whole truth. Now, Ian could come out and say, yeah, you're right. I'm not telling you everything because I can't. Because if I tell you everything, it ruins the surprise. So, I don't know. But point is, when and where it happens, whether it's like a silhouette at the end of an issue leading into, like, let's say a 3rd season of the comics, people are going to lose it. Once that gets reported on the internet, people are going to go crazy. Fans are going to be happy about this. And a lot of people would point out that the best time to probably do this, ladies and gentlemen, would be in time for the Sonic movie coming out in February. What better time to make the announcement that, oh, by the way, the Freedom Fighters are going to be in Archie Sonic, are going to be in IDW Sonic, I should say, than to help promote the movie. So we'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys all think down below. Comment if you like. What are your thoughts on this report? What are your thoughts on Ian Flynn coming out and trying to correct what people have been saying? Let me know down below. And I will talk to you all later.